Okay, I think we're ready to get started now. But once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is John. I'm the Business Development Director here at N.Progression, and today we're going to be discussing carbon management and reporting. Before we do get started, if I could kindly ask people to participate in our poll. You'll see the poll pop up on your screen there. The poll is with regards to how mature is your company in carbon management reporting. This is quite important for us really, because we can tailor today's webinar to the specific needs of the attendees. So once again, you'll just see the poll pop up on your screen, and it's about how mature is your company in carbon management and reporting. So if you just take a few moments to fill out the poll, it would be really appreciative. Okay, so I'm just going to discuss very briefly about N.Progression. As I mentioned at the start, I'm the Business Development Director here at N.Progression, and I'm sure there are people on this call today that don't know who N.Progression are, so I'll just briefly explain. N.Progression, we're a software solutions company and IT tech consultancy. Now, we help businesses leverage cutting-edge technology by providing solutions for existing software, new implementations, and also focus on software integrations. Now, we help organizations modernize their internal business processes through our solutions. By doing this, we actually are encouraging digital transformation as a big part of what we do. So we actually help businesses with their digital transformation journey. And we really understand that it's important for them to embrace the change. So we help organizations with adoption strategies to enhance utilizations and making sure that they get the most out of a product. So the whole reason why N.Progression got into the sustainability solutions side of things and carbon management reporting is because we actually focus on helping businesses within the food and beverage industries and also pharmaceutical industries. We've actually been helping them for many years come up with a solution for traceability and compliance. So by doing that, we realized there was, we understood, let's say, the legislations with regards to sustainability reporting. So we thought it would be very useful for us to come up with an idea solution or develop a solution that is able to support businesses with carbon management reporting. So that's the whole reason why we got into providing the solution that we're going to discuss about today. So very quickly onto the agenda, but before I get onto the agenda, I'm sure, I just wanted to mention something very personal for me. This is, I'm quite privileged to be having this discussion today. It's something that's quite important to us and to the civilization. And, it's quite new to me and something that I'm actually quite interested and quite intrigued about understanding a bit more. So again, I feel very privileged to be amongst a great panel. But I'm sure we can all agree that, the time to act on climate change is now. While all eyes are on governments to demonstrate leadership in COP28 in Dubai today, it's quite useful that we've come as a collective to discuss the role that mid-sized businesses can have, in terms of carbon management reporting. So the agenda is as followed. We'll go through a round of introductions. We've got the CSRD overview. You can see they're enabling the path of sustainability, carbon reporting, digitalization pathways, and we've got a panel discussion, and then we'll end with a Q&A. I think I've spoken enough now, so I'll pass it on to my colleague. Once you give someone like me the platform, I tend to go on, but yeah, I'll hand it over to Alex now. Thank you.
Hi all, it's great to see you all here. My name is Alex and I'll be your moderator for today. And I've been in sustainability for a while, and my background is in consulting, and currently my day job is sustainability manager at a big multinational company. And in my free time, I'm also an AI enthusiast, and I'm developing a solution, CSRD chat, to help companies understand this CSRD regulation. And I'll be talking about it later today. And we have a fantastic panel for today, representing different aspects of carbon management, different industries, different experiences. So I'd like to quickly introduce the panel. First is Eva Genaku, who is a CEO at Prosperia, that is an ESG consultancy. And Eva is very experienced. Before starting her consultancy business, she was a sustainability director in real estate and construction industries. Thanks for joining us, Eva. And then we have Tom Salisbury, Sustainability Director at DKN Automotive, the global leader in drive systems. And I understand that it's the first role as Sustainability Director for this business. So I imagine you're driving quite a lot of change in your role, Tom. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation and your insights on carbon reporting. We also have Angelika Minina, who is a Sustainability Product Director at N.Progression. She's specializing in scaling ESG-related digital products, including carbon accounting and supply chain traceability. Thanks for joining us, Angelika. And we have another Alex as well, Alex Ignatkin, who is a team lead at N.Progression. So he's responsible for integration of Microsoft products and different customer applications. And when I talk to Alex, often I don't understand what he means because he's using a lot of technical terms, but he's one of those guys you can trust to get things done. So welcome, Alex. We also have Rudy Dijlmans, based in the Netherlands, who is a sustainability manager in Heliox. And Heliox is a leading provider of rapid charging solutions for different modes of transport. And Rudy is bringing a wealth of sustainability experience, and his passion and specialism is cradle to cradle, which is all about you looking at waste as a valuable resource. Thanks for joining us, Rudy. And last but not least, and I understand you are coming to us straight from an investor meeting, Anna Sandgren, who is a CEO and founder at Unibloom. Unibloom is an innovative startup that is working to operationalize carbon management and enable companies to make better decisions and allocate capital to carbon reduction products. Thanks for joining us, Anna. And Anna is also, I forgot to mention, is bringing experience from the FMCG sector, having worked for Unilever for most of her career. Thanks all. For some reason, I still can't see my slides, but that's okay. So before we start, I kind of wanted to give you set the scenes and a brief overview why we are here today. So I don't really want to spend too much time on it, but I just wanted to share a story. I'm quite a keen gardener and I like gardening, and I have an apple tree in my garden. And for some reason, it started to blossom in October this year, and it's still blossoming in November, thinking it's spring. So it's just an indicator of that we can see that climate change is real. It's affecting all of us. We can see it, we can feel it, and the time for action is now. And as you heard, the last 9 years have been the warmest years in recorded history, and actually the last year, 2022, and we don't know for 2023, was the warmest year here in the UK, with the highest daily maximum and the highest daily minimum. So yes, it's quite urgent, and I'm pleased that all parts of the society are coming together to address climate change. And here we can focus on what we as mid-sized companies can do and how we can play our part. Can we go to the next slide? Actually, to the next poll. Again, to better understand who you are and what kind of drivers you see influencing your strategy and what gets in your way, we'd like to better understand you. And we have 2 polls for you to complete. One is on drivers for carbon management and reporting, and the second one is on challenges. So if you could just go to the polls, it should pop up on your screen, but you can also press the polls button on the top right-hand side of your screen. So the first one is drivers. Of course, regulation is a big driver. So if it's a law, it's a law. And we are not, I think we are leaving it outside of the equation, because if it is a law, you have to do it anyway. So if you could just comment or tick the box next to the most important non-regulatory driver for you. So this could be just the belief that, you know, this is the right thing to do, or it could be some customer requirements. For example, you're working with a big company that is decarbonizing its supply chain, and you are getting requirements as part of tenders or as part of contracts. It could be financing. You want to get a green bond or a green loan, or it's a requirement of the bank. It could be cost saving, that you are introducing energy efficient measures, or it could be product differentiation. You want to get customer trust, or it could be employer branding as well. So if you could complete the first poll, that would be great. Something is happening with my screen. John, can you see people taking part in the poll?
The first poll, yes,
The
completed.
second poll. The second
Yes,
poll.
second poll. No, I haven't seen the responses yet.
Oh, I can see the responses now. Great.
Oh yeah, here they are.
And once you're done with the and at the moment we have very, oh, it's interesting that the top driver is financing, actually. I didn't expect that. But we have quite equal representation across different drivers like cost saving, product differentiation, risk management. Interesting. That is 4% for other. I wonder what this is. Maybe you can later put it in the chat. And once you're done with this poll, you can go to the next one. And that is about barriers that get in your way. What stops you from effective and efficient carbon management and reporting? So this could be different things like access to data and measurement tools, could be lack of organizational coordination, different complex regulations, affordability of clean technologies, conflicting priorities. Maybe you're asked to do too many things in your role. Could be lack of expertise or gaps in knowledge, could be resource limitation, lack of time and budget. So if you could comment, that would be great. It's interesting that the top two barriers are access to data measurement and tools. So I'm glad we have some digital people in the room, and also regulatory complexity. Resource limitation is also an important factor. So thank you so much. For the sake of time, I would like to proceed, and I would like to give you a very brief overview of CSRD, the European regulation Directive on Corporate Sustainability Reporting, because from a regulatory perspective, it's going to be a major driver for companies to measure carbon, but also have a management approach that they can talk about and then they can disclose in their reporting. If someone could assist me with who is in control of the presentation to change my slides. So first of all, I would like to talk about why. I'd like to talk about why and who. So the purpose of the CSRD is to drive transparency and consistency in sustainability reporting across the European Union. And the hope is that with more data and with better data, stakeholders like banks and investors can make better decisions, and we can shift towards a more sustainable and inclusive economic system. And it also helps you to understand, your own environmental and social impacts, because there is a famous mantra, you can't manage what you can't measure. So hopefully with more data, your management will also be able to make better informed strategic decisions. So who does it apply to? Again, very briefly, the simple answer is large companies, all EU-listed companies, but also companies that have significant presence in the EU. So it could be a Japanese company trading with the EU, and they still have to comply. Small and medium-sized enterprises also could comply if they're listed, but the requirements for them will be simpler. And on the right-hand side of the slide that I can't see, you can see what we mean by large. So there are three main criteria, and if you meet two of them, then you classify as large. And if you move to the next slide, please, on the when and what. So there is phasing out of the regulation. So those companies that were subject to the non-financial reporting directive, the large companies, they will have to report for the year 2024. Basically, reports have to be published in 2025. So these are listed companies with over 500 employees. Next year, large non-listed companies meeting the thresholds will have to report in year 2026 for the year 2025, and the rest, and then the rest of the companies, including listed SMEs, will have to produce reports. And just very briefly, what are the key requirements? So it's central to the CSRD, the concept of double materiality. So basically, you need to report on issues that are important to the planet and society from an impact perspective, but also to your business from a financial perspective, those sustainability issues that are impacting your bottom line. And there are 12 kind of sets of disclosures, and 2 of them are mandatory, like general principles and essential information about your business. And the rest, like climate change, pollution, water, workforce, biodiversity, workforce-related issues, they are subject to materiality analysis. So once you define that this information is material, you have to report it. If you think it's not material, you have to explain why it's not material. There are some voluntary disclosures, but I have to say that there are not so many of them. The majority are mandatory. And also the reporting will have to go through external assurance, starting with limited assurance and then moving to reasonable assurance with time. And also the European Union is trying to align the regulations with the other frameworks like SFDR, for the financial sector, etc. And just a little bit on the climate. If we can move to the next slide that says climate ESRS E1. So what I've done, the EFRAG that is developing the standards, the European financial accounting body, they've recently issued an Excel spreadsheet with all the data points covered in the regulation. I don't want to scare you, but the total number is 100 or 1,100 indicators. And if you look at climate, these are 220 indicators. Of course, all of that is subject to materiality analysis, but still, for many businesses, climate is going to be material. And here I've just provided a breakdown of these indicators by categories and by type. I guess the main point I want to make is that it's not only quantitative data, your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, but also you need to talk about relevance to your business strategy, your goals, your metrics, your risks, your opportunities, how you define material issues. And if you look at data points by type, almost half of data points, maybe roughly 45%, they are narrative and semi-narrative. Again, it's not only about quantitative quantitative data, but also about how you manage risks, how you embed carbon management in your strategy. And on this note, I would actually like to pass over to Eva, who will touch upon carbon management from a strategic perspective, Thank you. I'll try to sort out my screen. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Alex. Hello to everyone attending our event. Hope you can hear me okay. Thank you, Alex, for the invitation and for the opportunity to be here and take part. I am looking forward to sharing my insights on carbon management and reporting through my experience from Prosperia Consulting, as Alex mentioned, but also insights from leading the sustainability function as the in-house sustainability director for more than 12 years before that. A few words about what we are working on with our clients to provide an idea on what sort of help is available out there for businesses. At Prosperia, we help businesses win in 4 ways: developing ESG strategy frameworks and providing support from the implementation phase as well, helping in setting climate targets and creating net zero strategies, supporting in compiling ESG reports and other sustainability reporting, and co-developing sustainable supply chain strategies to help deliver the carbon targets as well as wider ESG objectives of the businesses. On this last point, here's a case study from the work we have been doing with one of our clients, technology business Sage, where 42% of their indirect carbon footprint, known as Scope 3, comes from their supply chain. An important part of the work has been to establish what the requirements on suppliers need to be and how to link them to agree and take action, for example, through engagement, which is something we'll touch upon later. And here are recent examples of sustainability reports we have helped compile, all of which include carbon and climate-related data. For another one of our clients, the data centers business, Global Switch. At this point, I wanted to say a few words about why businesses should care about carbon emissions and carbon data in the first place. Heard before from John and Alex as well. Just to reiterate, I guess, CO2 emissions from fossil fuels are detrimental to humanity. As we know, they cause the greenhouse effect, leading to climate change and extreme weather events, as you all know. And the impact of that is what we're seeing today, that our civilization, economy, and ecosystem is struggling to cope. This disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable people on our planet, I should add. So to address the problem, global governments are implementing measures to slow down climate change, to allow us time for adaptation, and to eventually eliminate the use of fossil fuels. So on this matrix, I'm showing 4 key ESG business requirements types, which entail or require carbon data. New legislation, so for example, the EU climate law, the EU CSRD with the ESRS, also requiring businesses to measure, disclose, and significantly reduce their carbon footprint, including that of their value chain. There are also tax regulations on carbon emissions for businesses, particularly heavy industries like the EU ETS and the carbon tax on imports known as CBAM. Also globally recognized standards for what targets businesses should set, the science-based targets aligned with the Global Paris Agreement. Reporting standards have been formed to help businesses report in KPIs that are meaningful and transparent, such as the GRI. And sustainability performance assessment platforms now exist that help you and your clients, stakeholders, or interested parties benchmark performance against peers and best practice in the market to understand who is contributing towards the common goal of carbon neutrality and who is not. I wanted to highlight the fact here that even if you are not directly required to report because of those at the moment, it's certain that at least some of your clients are. So they will be asking for the relevant data and actions from you, from your business. So carbon management and reporting gives these advantages to businesses: legal compliance, access to subsidies and preferential loan rates, lower risk of carbon taxation on your products and services, an increase on maintaining your market share, improvement in employees and customers' loyalty, business resilience. In other words, if you do nothing, it will increasingly cost you more and more and may end up costing you your business. So, how do you embark on the journey? In these 3 steps, set a goal, plan and execute the strategy, manage data and reporting. So, what does this mean in practice? We take this first step. It all starts with the assessment of the carbon footprint. Seek expert advice on what is included, how to measure it, and identify the key components of your carbon footprint to effectively address and manage those that matter. If you lack accurate data, don't worry, you can start with estimates if you're using recognized industry carbon factors and carbon accounting methods. So I was talking about the importance of assessing the carbon footprint, seeking expert advice, and not to worry if you don't have accurate data at first, as there are recognized methodologies for estimating the carbon emissions to start with. And that's really important for businesses to understand where they should be focusing their attention to make a difference. It's also very important to set a goal that is aligned with global standards, the Global Paris Agreement, and these are goals validated through the Science-Based Targets Initiative organization. There is for the Science-Based Target Initiative organization, I think it's relevant to say here today that it is there is a I'm on slide 11, whoever is managing the presentation. There is a small, medium enterprise route that is much faster and cheaper to get validated science-based targets. So that may be of interest to you if you qualify as an SME. Then it's all about prioritizing action for impact on planning and executing a strategy. Prioritize actions based on identified hotspots to work on what matters the most. And the hotspots are the largest components of your carbon footprint. This could be challenging at times, so it's very important to focus on those, but I would advise to not dismiss low-hanging fruit, which could be quick wins on maybe smaller things, because that help keep the motivation up and also to help gather momentum. Next, allocate resources. It's very important to set responsibilities, allocate time and budget, set timelines, and review mechanisms. Then after prioritizing action, allocating resources, it's all about engaging with internal and external stakeholders for buying. It's important to include all impacted, clearly communicate goals and benefits from the leadership, upskill people internally and externally, share and consult on strategy and responsibilities to make sure these are clearly understood, and to link with performance and set incentives and rewards. This can be for your own staff as well as customers and suppliers. And lastly, but very importantly, take action. An important lever for all businesses is buying green energy. And then depending on the nature of your business, transitioning to greener production. This can be through using greener materials, recycled, reused, or using greener suppliers. Make services greener. For example, recently for one of my clients, the hotspot, as they are a professional services business, is the business travel. So they have introduced a sustainable travel policy to take the train instead of the car or the plane. Collaborate with your clients and join forces with peers to work on solutions. This can be quite effective. And the third step that will be done many times, of course, is to collect, manage data and report. For that, it's very important to have a robust data collection system that allows the inclusion of data from internal and external operations. It allows the analysis and review of the strategy where necessary, and then the external reporting and compliance with things like the CSRD, very important reporting directive, as Alex mentioned, and other customer-specific requirements. It could be things like the CDP questionnaire or EcoVadis, which are things we have recently helped clients with. These were the three phases.
Just conscious, sorry to interrupt you, just conscious of time, and sorry about the technical glitches. I think now it will be very timely to talk about the experience of GKN, how practically you've implemented your reporting program. And it would be great if you, Tom, could pick up from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Ivan.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I don't know if I have control of the slides, but I'll just start talking, and then if I'm given control, that's great. So GKN Automotive. So we are basically a tier 1 supplier for car manufacturers. So particularly around sort of driveline products, and also we have an e-drive business, so making electric motors. So sort of one in two cars around the world has a GKN part in it, and we have nearly 50 sites across 20 countries. And a couple of years ago, we set a sustainability strategy. So we have some pillars of that, so focused on people, climate action, responsible sourcing, and impact. And climate action has been a key part of our strategy, both in terms of the role that we play in reducing carbon emissions through our business, in terms of really enabling that transition of vehicles from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, but also looking at how we can reduce our operational carbon footprint and carbon emissions. So I just wanted to spend some time talking through, and if someone could kind of move the slides as I go, that would be great. Talk through some of the steps that we've taken to really to improve our sustainability reporting, and particularly our carbon management and reporting. And I think, you know, what's very clear is that this is a journey that we're taking, and I think we certainly don't have all the answers, but hopefully it's a useful example as a mid-sized company around what the steps we're taking. So the first step that we had, and I can't change the slide, so I don't know who can.
Can you not click on the top there, Tom, on the top left-hand side? It's got take control. The top left should say take control.
No. So if on the next slide, really the first step that we took was to understand our GHG emissions baseline, and I think this is you can't really start improving what you're doing from a carbon emission reduction perspective until you actually start to have a good idea of what your emissions look like. So we worked with a third party to really help us understand what our carbon emissions were from a scope 1 and 2, so sort of direct operational footprint to our scope 3 emissions. So could someone move on the next slide, please? The step 1 slide. Thank you. So and this really helped the business understand, if we're going to have a net zero ambition, well, what are the key areas that we need to focus on? And interestingly, from a GK and automotive perspective, it was really around our scope 3 emissions being the most significant, and then the use of sold products, so being by far the biggest. So as our parts are going into cars which have internal combustion engines, that's the biggest part of our total carbon footprint, and I'll talk about that shortly. So we can go on to the next slide, which was once we had an idea of our baseline and the profile of emissions, the next point was really defining what our commitments would be. So this was around having a net zero target, so and submitting that for the Science Based Targets Initiative, and then also having targets really supporting that on purchasing renewable electricity. And then also we have a target around waste. But it was really important to, because ultimately this is what it's about. We're talking about carbon reporting. It's really how we are making sure that we're getting towards these targets of action, which we need to deliver as businesses. So once we had our defined commitments, I think the key thing now that we're working on, well, two things. Obviously, the initiatives we are taking to actually reduce our carbon emissions, obviously critical, but actually the next step that I wanted to really mention is around improving that data quality. So on the next slide, you can see some detail on the actions that we're taking to reduce to improve our reporting on our direct operational carbon emissions. So, and a key part here is around how we can digitalize our reporting. So as I mentioned, we have over 50 sites across 20 countries around the world. So quite a complex, broad organization. And to improve this data quality, actually having a really fit for purpose solution, so using UR360 in this case, to start to gather our energy, electricity, water and waste data has been really important, and we're currently in the middle of a cross-functional project to really to develop this tool, but then also roll out across sites. I think what's also key here is this growing focus on data quality, which I think the poll, I think it was quite interesting from earlier in the poll where it talked about a number of different drivers around improving carbon reporting, and I would agree with that there's no one driver. Actually, there are multiple drivers, whether it be customers, investors, regulation, all these different stakeholders are demanding and expecting better quality data. And I think having the right tools with inbuilt data checking and reducing the amount of room for error are going to be a really important enabler to get there. So that's looking at how we've improved the data quality for our scope 1 and 2. Well, how we are. I wouldn't say we've done it yet. We are in the process of doing that. But I think obviously, as I showed in our baseline, scope 3 emissions are our biggest part of our footprint. And the next slide, I saw this meme a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was very good in terms of what it's like for sustainability professionals. If you could go on the next slide, how it feels when calculating different carbon emissions. So scope 1 and 2, fine, it's in our operational footprint, and we can kind of have reasonable control over it, where scope 3 is a bit of a nightmare. And I think the real challenge here, you know, even once you've got an idea of a grasp of you know, what are the biggest categories for scope 3 emissions are, you know, I think this movement from estimate to actual data is the challenge in scope 3. And I think, you know, I've worked in a few different sectors, and it's quite interesting how that the profile of scope 3 emissions has really changed from business to business, and the complexity of scope 3 emissions is really tough. So on to the next slide. Again, working a real focus for us now, you know, firstly, having that relevance assessment. So understanding, well, of all your indirect scope 3 emissions, what are the biggest areas to focus on? And really having that prioritization and making, you know, sure you are focusing on the areas that make sense for your business and the profile of your business. And like I said, they can vary significantly across different businesses. But then once you have that, it's about moving from estimates to actuals. Every year, taking those steps to start to improve the accuracy of your scope 3 reporting. And I think the other point I'd mention is this cross-functional engagement being really key. You know, the different categories of scope 3 emissions do require a lot of cross-functional engagement with different parts of your business, but also outside your business, whether it be suppliers, customers, or JV partners. Alex, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. It's fascinating, and we'll touch upon scope 3 emissions in our panel discussion.
Great.
It's conscious of time.
Great. Yeah, that's fine. So I just the last slide on the next slide. So just 3 main things I'd highlight. So data quality, so getting to that data to be auditable, meeting customer demands, which I think we'll touch on in the panel, but then also having that cross-functional organization to really make sure you've got that ownership of data, but also critically that ownership of progress towards your targets. And I'll stop there. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you used that meme because I also saw that. I thought it was very funny, but I'm also glad I didn't use it because I was about to. Yeah, and as you mentioned, digital is very important to help us get the right quality of data, but also to be efficient and work smartly. And I'd like to invite Alex and Angelica from N.Progression to share some of the pathways they see for mid-sized companies and you know what they think is best fit for given the environment that mid-sized companies operate.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alex. So right now, let's explore the challenges SMEs face in carbon reporting and practical solutions for each. So firstly, data collection and quality pose a substantial challenge for SMEs. Juggling complex data often leads to errors. And the remedy here is to simplify. You should integrate standardized methods, reliable data sources, and user-friendly digital tools. And you can think of it as a roadmap for your data, guiding you through the reporting landscape without getting lost. And now the second challenge, which is a shortage of sustainability managers. So SMEs with limited resources struggle to allocate time and personnel for carbon reporting, which leads to low awareness. And the fix here is to get resourceful. Basically, you can invest in staff training, nurture a sustainability culture within the company, and consider external support, of course, as well. And lastly, the financial constraints put a damper on SMEs' carbon reporting efforts. Existing platforms don't really often come with, they do often come with a hefty price tag, and it's making a real budget buster, right? So how to overcome this? You should think cost effective. So which is cutting down upfront costs, enhancing efficiency, and fostering collaboration without breaking the bank. And on the next slide, Let's now navigate the complex landscape of GHG reporting for SMEs. It's not just a challenge, it's an actual opportunity to innovate and for innovation and tailored solutions. For instance, at U-Solutions, our journey began not in a vacuum, but through a collaborative effort and in-depth research as well. We engaged with our customers, delved into the strengths and weaknesses of various reporting options, which are available on the market. And also the criteria that you can see above in purple, they were not plucked from thin air. They were actually meticulously crafted based on the direct feedback from our clients and our extensive research as well. And we focused on what constitutes an excellent solution for medium-sized companies, understanding the specific needs and challenges faced by SMEs. And so to give you just a few examples, so let's say reporting in Excel. So it provides flexibility, but raises concerns about security at the same time. And it's user-friendly to some extent, but the reduction in manual work is limited. Moving on is enterprise solutions like SAP and Microsoft Sustainability Cloud, of course, offer high security, but they might sacrifice flexibility and cost efficiency. And for instance, small-sized startup solutions might be flexible, but they often lack user-friendliness and security. And so in the midst of these considerations, U-Solutions on Power Platform emerges as like more than just a product. It's a response to the voices of our clients, a solution crafted with utmost flexibility and security and user-friendliness in mind too. And regarding the key functionalities, U-Solutions excels in collecting data from various sources, aggregating it at a corporate level, ensuring its accuracy through verification by authorized users. And one of also our key strengths lies in presenting the data seamlessly using all of the reporting requirements. And on the next slide, let's speak a bit more about cloud-based platforms and U-Solutions in particular. I would like to introduce you to U-Solutions a bit in more detail. So it's a customer-centric and cost-effective GHG reporting solution. And actually, U-Solutions isn't just a product. It's a reflection of our vision and our values. And it's a solution that we created with our customers in mind. And we understand the challenges that SMEs face when it comes to measuring and reporting the GHG, the greenhouse gas emissions, right? And we know that you need a solution that's easy to use, secure, reliable. We know that you want a solution that helps you improve your sustainability performance and not just simply to report it. And once again, that's why we created U-Solutions, which is a cloud-based platform that simplifies and streamlines GHG reporting process for SMEs. And now on the next slide, let me just share a down-to-earth glimpse of how U-Solutions is making a real difference for medium-sized businesses. One of our customers was actually dealing with a headache of managing the intricate carbon footprint data, and I'm sure you can relate to that. And that's where U-Solutions stepped in, simplifying the process with practical features like Excel imports, integrity checks, and nifty data connectors. And now let's talk about security. So U-Solutions is built on Microsoft's sturdy tech, but it isn't just about some, flashy, fancy terms. It's like having a trustworthy partner. And our customers say sensitive data is always securely tucked away in Microsoft Azure's private cloud, where they have full control and peace of mind, of course, as well. And on the dollar and cent side, U-Solutions isn't a financial burden. It's a smart move for our customer, and they're not spending money, they're actually investing wisely. And cost for integration and process automation is optimized. It's like finding a perfect balance between efficiency and budget-friendly decisions. And so in a nutshell, U-Solutions isn't some like flashy gadget for our customers. It's a reliable partner, a partner that simplifies, secures, and helps them grow without breaking a bank. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm an IT guy, and I wanted to give you some ideas how your solution may looks like. So here on the slide, I want to give you some details regarding to the general process, how it might look like. Of course, you can adjust according to your requirements, but I wanted to get through with scheme and give you a basic understanding how it might works. So you may have several levels, kind of headquarter level and on-site level. And in this scheme, a headquarter provide all the methodology, how you need to collect your activity data and how you need to calculate it. So on-site users have to prepare all the activity data. We can do that either manually or using some automated tools and transfer it via APIs. And headquarter also contribute to the calculation model. And when we have calculation model and we have raw data or activity data, we will finally got GSG emission calculations data. We also need to have kind of data validation process, and on-site users can be involved in it. Finally, if everything is okay, you will have the whole set of the data, and based on this information, you can assess risks and opportunities, develop a strategy, and prepare necessary reporting such as CSRD. On the next slide, I want to give you, next slide, please. I want to give you some details about capabilities of the solution which based on Power Platform. So I'll start from left side of the slide and go to the right. And first of all, what I wanted to say here is that you have ability to upload any external data. For example, you can upload data from your internal sources like IRP, CRM, HRM system, and so forth. Also, you are able to upload different emission factors and keep integration with various ISV-specific, industry-specific solutions. Finally, you will collect all the data in kind of ESG data store, which based on Microsoft Dataverse. And here I wanted to say that only you will own this data. You will manage access to this data. To calculate your data, you need to apply calculation model, and we realized this calculation based on Power Automate. You know that it's a low-code tool, and you can use your mouse and adjust or create a new calculation model. When you apply calculation model to your data, you categorize your data, and finally you can see it in sustainability journal. Here, finally, you can validate your data, and if everything is okay, you will see all your data in the sustainability ledger, which also based on Microsoft Dataverse. So this will be the main source of information for AI application and further reporting using Power BI. There are several things which I wanted to highlight to you to sum up everything I was told. First of all, this solution cover scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 now in our roadmap. Also, you can see lots of Microsoft business applications here, and that give you some flexibility because you may use the right application for the particular task. Also, it's important to know that all these business applications are seamlessly and securely integrated within the global Microsoft ecosystem. And of course, these are low-code, no-code applications which you can easily customize and benefit from it very quickly. I think that's it for now, what I was going to say.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Angelica, and thank you for all the speakers for your fantastic presentations. And sorry I had to cut you short. Just it's my job to watch the time, and hopefully we'll be able to cover some questions now and the rest 26 minutes. And now we are moving to the panel discussion. And again, I would like to invite Rudy and Anna to join the previous speakers in the panel discussion. So I've got some questions for you that I'm personally very curious about, but also we will let the audience ask your questions. You can either put them in the chat or come off the camera and ask your questions directly. So perhaps my first question will be to Anna, because I know you've been waiting quite long. You know, if you imagine a mid-sized company, you know, they're often quite resource constrained, and you have one person doing sustainability on top of other things. But, you know, to have a credible strategy and a credible pathway to net zero, you need to choose the right technologies, you need to understand their carbon footprint costs, etc. So are there any smart ways, you know, to select projects in a kind of resource efficient but also effective way?
Yeah, hi. I'm on a fever today, so that's why I'm a bit slow on responding. But no, yes, it is. I would say that when you talk projects, it means like when you have built up your strategy, and I think we heard that from Eva, and very clear, you know, goal setting, and so on, and like that action part, which are kind of the key projects. And what we learned from a lot of companies we work with is that there's usually a lot of knowledge in each of, you know, the manufacturing team, the innovation team, and so on. So, and I saw on the poll here that it's very siloed for the sustainability team. So I think in terms of like, first of all, what we saw a few of our customers before they used Unibloom was to kind of source the information, share out the strategy, say like, what is your biggest actions to take in the manufacturing team, and innovation team? You put up together a few workshops and say, okay, how far do we get? So like usually there's a lot of internal information and expertise that you maybe not have gathered before, but it usually sits there in the walls since 40 years, 50 years sometimes. So I think that's the first one as a small company, and start, you know, source the projects that people has on hand so they also feel responsible for those. Then secondly, when you start gathering that, usually in start with a spreadsheet rather than a PowerPoint, but in a spreadsheet, you start kind of, you know, understanding what are the impact, and then what are kind of the key focus areas. So you move from ad hoc projects to more streamlined projects.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. Yeah. And then you can use, you know, for example, Unibloom as a platform to be able to kind of, you know, validate the different projects and optimize those over time. But I would say that's the first step from as you already have a few tools.
Yeah, maybe just to build on that, you know, Eva, you mentioned SBTi, the Initiative for Science-Based Targets, but I know that for some companies it could be quite difficult to get certification from SBTi, but also it costs money. So if you still want to make your goals, carbon reduction goals, science-based, but you don't have necessarily resources to get the SBTi certified, maybe between both of you, what kind of advice can you give to companies?
Can I start? Yeah, I hand over to you, Eva, after. But I think, first of all, we know that you have to reduce in scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 on 55% to 2030 to hit the science-based targets. And there is also a more limited requirement from SBTi if you're a smaller company. So it's not as hard as the bigger ones, and it doesn't cost as much. So that's also worth going back to the science-based targets. So I would say that if, you know, it's very important to set up those targets, at least to start, you know, internally committing to that. And then, you know, like which of the areas do we dare to kind of, can we put down 55%, and what then does it cost in terms of resources and financials? So yeah, it's just a math exercise in the beginning.
Yeah. Eva, any practical examples from your own experience with clients?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think we have seen a shift in the last few years as a lot more businesses have started measuring their carbon footprint and finding that quite often their hotspots are related to supply chains, for example. So they are increasingly asking their supply chain to set science-based targets. And because of that, businesses that were thinking about it are more have more business drivers now to do it. So first of all, I would advise businesses to really check exactly what their requirements are and market expectations are, because often your stakeholders are not able to tell if your target is actually good enough, and they are asking for a third-party certification, which comes from the SBTI. So even though it looks expensive, it may for SMEs it's much cheaper. As Anna mentioned, there is an SME route with the SBTI. It may be more costly to avoid it because the validation from the SBTI, it is the best and clearest evidence to your stakeholders that you are complying and ticking that box. That would be my primary advice. Check if you really need it, and if you do, go for it, because it's the golden standard.
Yeah, thank you. My next question is to Rudy. We mentioned its certification, but I assume that I understand that from your sustainability report that Heliox is getting different certifications. So I was wondering, how do you use the certification process for progress in carbon management and reporting, and kind of keeping the company and its stakeholders organized and on track? Do you mind sharing some of your experience?
I can share something. First of all, I think, and it was mentioned before, take one step at a time. Obviously, scope 1 and 2 is a bit easier than taking scope 3 altogether. And in case you are serious, there is only one objective, actually. That is reduce scope 1 and 2 emissions to 0. The only question you can ask yourself is by when? So we did not choose for the SBTI, but we felt that we would like to certify against a standard for carbon zero, net carbon zero. So which basically means that although it's not SBTI, the objectives are more or less the same. And it is also validated, and it is, for us, it was slightly cheaper than the SBTI. But above all, it is also, well, taking just another route. And I think this is, for us, it makes sense. Not saying that it would make sense for everybody, but I'm certain that, and we're just in the process of delivering the data. And for us, it was also, you get support in whether or not are you using the right calculations? Are you actually using the right emission factors? Since we are in different countries, they also look into like, okay, the carbon emission factors, are they specific to that particular country? And if it's not, they will help you. So it was, for me personally, it was also like, okay, did I do my job properly? Didn't I forget anything? Because they will point that out, and then you have to go back to the drawing board. In my case, I did not need to do that. So yeah, that were for me several reasons to do that via this certification, and it gives me a full validation report also where we can improve and where not.
Yeah.
And it also pushes me, or the company actually, to move gradually from scope 1 and 2 to scope 3, which, as you all know by now, is a challenging endeavor.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And yeah, your scope 1 and scope 2 is scope 3 for someone else, right? And I would like to ask Tom, because you are a supplier to other big companies. So I imagine you are getting requests from them to share emissions data, what you're doing, your strategy, etc. So how do you kind of collect and analyze those requirements and keep yourself organized to respond to that customer requests and provide data for tenders and other kind of customer how do you fulfill customer requests?
I mean, it's quite interesting, particularly with as we transition to electric vehicles. So, you know, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the biggest part of a carbon footprint of a car, for example, you know, with an internal combustion engine is the use of it, right? But as we move towards EVs, and for an electric vehicle, the biggest part of the carbon footprint of that vehicle is actually in the supply chain and the materials that are going into that car. So actually, as we move to EVs, that's just going to be more of a focus on supply chain, and then particularly for tier one suppliers like us. You know, I think we already see. So, for example, the growing expectation of life cycle analysis of the products that we're providing our customers. So, really wanting to have that detailed, granular carbon data of specific products, and that is increasingly integrated into the proposal process as well. So when we're pitching for work for projects, obviously, you know, going in with all the different parameters of what your proposal is, but actually we're seeing the carbon footprint being something that's increasingly part of that. I think we're also seeing sort of increased stipulation. So, for example, from a number of our customers that you know, the request saying we have to have renewable electricity for our site. So, in terms of an organisation side, what we've done within GKN Automotive is set up almost like a triage team of how we deal with all of these multiple customer requests as they come in, to really understand what needs to be done and from what part of the business, and that's really helped to sort of manage the flow of the growing volume of requests we get from customers and the different demands, and allows us to sort of prioritize. But I think the other key part is around, you know, we've talked about this on the call, is around having the right systems in place for that efficiency, both in terms of gathering our operational emissions data to provide our customers, but also I think increasingly this granular data and investing in the right platforms to efficiently do life cycle assessments of all our different product lines, and that's going to continue to grow that focus, as I said, as we move to EVs, and that scrutiny and supply chain when it comes to the carbon footprint of a vehicle is going to grow.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. I know that in the audience we have Maggie Sloan from Zalando, who is actually working with suppliers on decarbonization plans. So Maggie, if you could raise your hand and share your experience from the other side, and how do you see how to make the process more efficient, and how to help and empower suppliers to be better at carbon management and reporting. Do you mind raising your hand? Yeah, N.Progression, if you could let Maggie speak, please.
Perfect. Hopefully you can hear me now. And yeah, thanks, Alex, for the question. Happy to jump in and excited to be part of the session listening in today. So as Alex mentioned, yeah, I work at Zalando, which is a large e-commerce company located in Berlin, with over 50 million customers across 25 countries in Europe. And through my work, mostly focused on our Scope 3 targets, I interact with quite a few of our different business partners from our own private labels, so actually going more into the supply chain engagement, as well as with our brand partners, packaging and logistics partners. And what we're doing depends a little bit on the area of the business. So we are working with some efforts to, for example, introduce climate action requirements within supplier onboarding. So this is one approach we're taking for some of our packaging partners. So kind of this key point to actually enter business relationships with us. But increasingly, we're focusing on enablement. We understand the challenges in actually then or downward pressures as well from larger companies across the supply chain and across partners. So one big initiative that we launched last year with Yux Net-a-Porter and About You was Fashion Leap for Climate, where we're actually working with our brand partners, most of them small and medium-sized enterprises, from their earliest stages of climate target setting through to increasingly how do they actually achieve their targets. So this really means understanding, what are the business's climate impacts? How do you establish a corporate carbon footprint? Plus some of these more formal processes that others have touched on today of target setting via the SBTi and noting some of the less intensive pathways for SMEs. With this, we know that there is a lot of downward pressure across different partners. So we're increasingly trying to engage with our partners to really understand and react to the challenges they're facing. I think this dialogue is super important, and also rewarding those that take action. I think this has also been mentioned today, where increasingly we need to work with manufacturing partners, for example, that are moving towards zero emissions. So we really have to reward through kind of commercial incentives, continued engagement with these partners, and trying to get a bit creative here, addressing some of the major pain points that we hear from partners, such as access to financing to actually invest in some of the decarbonization roadmaps that these partners are developing.
Thanks for sharing. It's great that not only pressure but is here, but also some support that you provide to your suppliers so that they can progress on climate. Also, I've got a question I'm quite intrigued about. We've talked about different systems, but you all know that AI is a big hype at the moment, and there are a lot of discussion, how an AI will enable risk management, climate management, reporting. So I'd like to ask the tech guy, Alex, what do you think about AI and what it means for ESG reporting, and namely carbon reporting?
Thank you very much for the question. AI models are constantly developing, and before I'll jump to the AI capabilities, I just want to mention that with no AI without data. So first and foremost, you need to be focused on collecting your data and be accurate here. As for the capabilities itself, I think it would be good if we can divide it into 3 big groups, and the first group, it's kind of analytics and insights, and here we can expect kind of sophisticated analysis, benchmarking, financial impact assessment, and so forth. The second group is about reporting and compliance, and here we might expect that AI model prepares the printing form of the report according to your requirements and based on your data, of course. Also, we can expect a kind of emerging regulation insights. And the third group of benefits, it's about strategic planning. Here you can talk about emission regulation planning or supply chain impact assessment and so forth. But again, the quality depends on many parameters, including the quality of your data, and you need to be focused on it. So thank you.
Thanks. I'm also curious to hear Microsoft's perspective, because Microsoft is investing, as you know, in AI quite heavily. So we have Nenad Slivic, who is a senior partnership manager from Microsoft. So if you could just come off mute and maybe share your thoughts on AI and how it could impact sustainability reporting.
Yeah. Thanks for this invitation. And yes, I'm PDM. I'm supporting N.Progression at all as PDM. So we are delivering readiness. We are building our strategy together. So let me briefly say, because what Microsoft is heavily investing, it means that what are the stock exchanges is currently the status, for example, and from this perspective, Microsoft is in fact the leader in most of the I would say industry verticals that we see at the moment. So We are talking constantly about the co-pilot and some technologies. We are developing also the strategy how to protect your identity, how to protect, I would say, your data, etc. So sustainability is one of the products. So cloud for sustainability, what we call it, so is I would say the product that is very famous currently in Microsoft partner ecosystem. We know that we have more than 400,000 partners worldwide, and we have more than 500 million users that are using our cloud. So from this perspective, sustainability is a big topic for us because we have all other products, and we had never had a bigger, I mean, end-to-end offer of the product. So sustainability is one of them because we have a huge experience in I would say mid-sized business, in enterprise grade business. So with ERP systems, with CRM systems, with the common data, I would say service, I mean, with the platforms that are keeping customers' data. So there is a lot of, I would say, industry verticals that we are covering, but sustainability is something where Microsoft is almost in the top of the leader. I mean,
yeah, thank you.
In the quality, yes, quadrant. Yes, thanks.
Thanks for sharing. We probably have like time for 1-2 questions from the audience. So if you could just raise your hand and then ask the speaker, maybe also tell who you would like to hear from, and please, speakers, be really brief. Thank you. Okay, it sounds like we have a shy audience. So maybe, well, I can ask you a question till the end of the day. Maybe one, maybe we can just go around the table, and if in 3 words you could give 3 pieces of advice to mid-sized companies on how to get started on carbon management and reporting. So what this advice would be. And can we start with Anna, because you're the first one on my screen?
Oh. I think one is that, yeah, get your house in order. I think someone said like streamline your operations there on a carbon accounting, so you know how to do that in scope 1, 2, 3. Secondly, also, as I said, like when you have done these hotspots, learn from or collaborate with the key suppliers or customers. So you do that also. You can learn a lot. And I would say 3 is that dare to commit to science-based targets. I think that will for sure put you on the right path. And we see more and more big customers pushing down to mid-size and smaller companies that they have to commit to it. So I think that's because then you have a target and then you know where to go.
Yeah,
and without a target.
Thank you, Ivan.
I'd really echo that last point particularly. I think that's the gold standard, and I think the one thing that I would really add is ambition. You know, I think we're in a climate crisis, right? So we need the right level of ambition, and I think, you know, all size businesses have a really important role to play in doing that. So large, medium, small, and so I think that ambition is critical.
Yeah. Any other speakers, Rudy?
Well, I think the main thing is just get started. Even if you're not knowledgeable, even if you are overwhelmed by all the things we've been discussing today, start with your invoices of your electricity, of your gas, and collect the stuff and gradually move on. What will help you is there was some mentioning on Excel. This is the way I started, and I lost my way since you have, in our cases, we have different countries, so different emission factors, etc., etc. And in the end of the day, if you're trying to create both transparency and traceability, then you need a little bit more like a tool that helps you in that.
Yeah, anything to add? Thank you. Alex, Eva, anything to add?
Yes, I would say it's like everyone else said before, it's really important to get some expert advice because that will help clarify various areas. Perhaps you are worrying about things that can easily be solved or not be aware about things that are very important to you, but you were not aware of. So seeking expert advice is very important, will save you a lot of headaches. Second would be to really invest on training and upskilling and consulting with your people that are going to make it all happen. And that can include suppliers and customers. And really having a clear message from the top to show that you are determined.
Fantastic. Okay, on this fantastic note, I let John from N.Progression to wrap up. And maybe as a kind of practical thing, if you could put some idea or action inspired by this conversation today that you're going to implement first and share it in the chat, that would be great. And Rudy, I think you have a final word to say as well.
Yes, what might help is, which wasn't mentioned actually, is to start reading the GHG protocol. So that you actually know what we're talking about if we're talking about scope 1 and 2 and 3 and blah, blah, blah. And the next thing on reporting, it might be interesting to read out in the GRI. Both are basically free to read, and it will give you a clear ideas on definitions.
Okay, thank you for fantastic advice. Thank you. Yes, if you could share what you are going to do, any ideas you're going to implement, and I'll let John from N.Progression to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everybody. I must say it was very, very useful and insightful. You know, again, for someone like myself, being amongst such a panel, I did find it very, very useful. Some really great information from GKN, from Eva and Anna. Really appreciate all your time. So yeah, I know there was a question in the chat. Yes, so this recording will be shared with you all. I will pretty much be touching base with everybody that attended this webinar to share the recording and the slides, so you'll have these slides as well. Listen, we are at Progression, we're looking for early adopters. Thanks to Alex and Angelica who went through the use solutions, our own solution here at N.Progression in terms of carbon management reporting. So if you're interested in becoming early adopters, then you can scan the QR code on the left here, and also you've got the QR code on the right to follow N.Progression on LinkedIn. I really hope everybody did find it useful. Just as we go in the chat, if you just want to, you know, leave a little emoji and let me know how you found the webinar. If it was very useful, thumbs up, smiley face. If not so, thumbs down. But hopefully no thumbs down, please. But I really appreciate everyone's time today. And yeah, that's all from me. So thank you, everybody, and have a nice rest of the day. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye bye.
Thank you all. Take care.